Hey everybody, welcome to Free to Grow. Thanks for tuning in today. We are talking about turning our pork belly into bacon. We recently butchered our Berkshire pigs that we raised here on our homestead on pasture. And if you like our channel, please take a moment to subscribe. We're trying to get better about sharing here on YouTube, and it would mean the world to us. All right, let's get into it.
There are lots of different ways to cure bacon and lots of different methods and recipes. And the method we're doing today is called the equilibrium method. I learned this from a hog butchering workshop I took with Hand Hume Farm, but it's not a method that they created. I did go off of some of their recipes, but bacon is a thing that you can really um, through trial and error, decide what you like. And we've done that. This is our second round of doing pigs, and we cured them a little differently this way. So what we're looking at now is slabs of pork belly. And you don't have to raise your own pigs to have pork belly. You can go to a butcher shop or sometimes just a large grocery store and buy pork belly in bulk. And first thing you want to do when you're working with a pork belly is cut them to the size that you'd like to have after they're cured, and you're going to run them on a slicer. Or, keep in mind how big is the frying pan that you're going to cook your bacon in, things like this. So, first thing I'm doing is laying all the slabs of pork belly out. I lay them out on parchment paper, and I then take each slab of belly and weigh it on a scale. With this method, and probably most methods, it's good to have a digital cooking scale so that you can get your weights of your meat and then also get weights of the spices, salt, sugar, things you're using in your cure. With the equilibrium method that we're doing today, or EQ curing, you are basing your amount of salt, sugar, pepper, whatever you're using in your cure based off of the starting point of how much the meat weighs. So you'd get a weight for your meat, then you would calculate, say, 2% salt, and then you could weigh that out in grams. You'll know that's how much salt you're going to use. Maybe 1% sugar, that's how much sugar you're going to use. Any other spices, maybe you like it heavier with black pepper, or you want to use some onion powder or garlic powder. Any of these things, this is where you get to kind of play and be creative. So you um, put these spices on your fresh pork belly, and then you seal them either in like a vacuum sealed bag, or you can even use gallon Ziploc bags, and you let them take on this cure for about 1 week in a refrigerated environment. The thing about the EQ method, if you go by these percentages with salt, you don't risk over salting as long as you get that weight dialed in, which a lot of people in the beginning, when they're making bacon and they're just covering it with a salt cure, not going by weight, then you're really reliant on how long it's in the cure, because it can get over salted, but because it can take on as much salt or cure as it wants. If there's only so much in the bag that you're curing in, you don't risk that oversalting in that trial and error part of making curing bacon. So right here I'm adding some salt. We do like to use a little bit of brown sugar. We use some fresh black pepper. And another option is you can use a curing salt. Like, you can use it or not use it. It's called cure number 1, and that will add a different saltiness. And you don't have to. Last year we didn't use any of it. This year I wanted to try it, so we adjusted our salt amount to a little bit of curing amount. And you can get online and find lots of recipes or even curing calculators. If you just search an EQ curing calculator or equilibrium bacon, and start from there. Start from somebody else's recipe and build off that. And maybe you have several slabs of pork belly like we do here. Try one a certain way and label it. Make another one a certain way and label it, and you'll just know as you cook it and eat it what your taste desires. So this way, don't do 8 slabs of cure your first time all one way and then realize, oh man, that was too garlicky or somewhere. I didn't like all that black pepper. If you experiment in the early phases of this, you can say, oh, that one, pork belly A, was really good. Let's do more that way. Or it just gives you some freedom to figure out what you like. So, one thing I do is, as I'm doing this, I take each spice and weigh it separately and then add it to a bowl. That way, if I make a mistake or screw up and add too much salt or too much pepper, I didn't ruin the whole batch of cure. And I'm making, again, a weighed amount of cure for each slab of pork belly. So as I have now got my cure mixture weighed, I am going to use a little vacuum sealer, and this is just a super cheap Amazon vacuum sealer that we've now had for years. I joke with Liz that I'm just waiting for it to die so that we can get a better one, but it does the job. We've vacuum sealed several chickens, now pigs. We've done deer, we've done beef, and it does a pretty good job. It does a good enough job, and especially for something like this where I'm just trying to seal in the cure. It definitely is adequate. So you don't need to go and spend some crazy amount on a vacuum sealer, and you really don't even need to have a vacuum sealer. You can just, like I said, put it in a gallon Ziploc bag. So I just kind of spread the cure over the face of the meat here and gently slide it into whatever bag I'm going to use, and then we'll seal it up. Now the pork belly we're using, we scalded our pigs, so we did not skin our pigs. So one side of this pork belly does have the skin on. It's the way we've chosen to do it. I could skin it before we cure. I think it's easier to work with the skin on. Just in general, it's protecting the meat a little bit more. Now that said, the cure is really only going to mostly absorb through the side that does not have the skin. So that's the side I'm putting most of the cure on. And as the salt draws the water out of the meat, it's going to make like its own marinade. So I'm not adding any liquid in here. There's wet cures, dry cures. This would be a dry cure equilibrium method. So the moisture and the liquid that's going to make like the marinade or the cure just comes from within the pork. So it doesn't take very long. Once I have this sealed up, I would say within minutes you start to see some moisture and liquid start to form on the face of the meat and in that bag, because that salt is starting to pull out the moisture. And then what it's doing is making the cure, and it will absorb like an equilibrium throughout the meat and evenly distribute that cure. Now, once this is sealed, we will take these and put them in the refrigerator for about a week. And a week is the time it takes. I would say on average a week is a really good starting point. It could take 3-4 days. It could take 9 days. I don't know. I don't think it ever really takes more than 4 or 5 days. But a week is a good spot to say I'm going to leave this to cure for a week. And if it goes a little longer, even it doesn't matter if it's not going to get over salted or over cured. So I always just put it in the refrigerator, mark on the calendar 1 week, and usually I'm too excited to get to it, and I don't really risk having to leave it for too long. We just use these bus tubs, or some people call it a meat lug, and I just stack all the slabs of belly that are now sealed up. And if you have a refrigerator that's big enough, find a spot, stick it wherever you can, and leave it for a week. All right, 1 week has passed, and now I am pulling out the now cured slabs of belly, and we are going to cold smoke. So this smoker that we're using, we used one last year. It's a Bradley smoker. It is one of the few small home smokers that will allow you to cold smoke. The Bradley smoker is an electric smoker that uses pucks, and you don't have to use the heat on the smoker. So you can just kind of cold generate smoke with a little bit of heat, but it for the most part is a cold smoke. But what I'm doing now is pulling out each slab, and I just rinse them off. I rinse off the extra cure. And the reason for that is if any salt or cure build up on one spot of the meat while it was in there, after you smoke and go to slice, you could end up with extra salty bits. So you're just kind of washing off that extra stuff so you don't end up with any clumpy spices. I'm just showing that these are the hardwood briquettes that go in the Brackley smoker. The way that this smoker works is there's kind of a hopper that holds these wood pucks. They drop down on a heating element and generate the smoke within basically what is a little mini fridge. And that mini fridge does have a heat element if you want to do hot smoke, but with bacon, I'm always choosing to cold smoke. Um, not trying to cook the bacon, just get some smoke on it. And you can just decide, this is another thing, a taste preference thing, how smoky you want. You know, you can go 4 hours, 12 hours. I think that we aren't really heavy smoke people, so we go on the low side. I think I set this thing up for 4 hours of hickory smoke. Last year we tried applewood, and not a huge difference, but I do notice a difference. The applewood had a little bit of a sweeter smoke to it. Some of the ones we did last year went a little bit too long. Here you see that the hopper is just feeding those pucks. They moves it right there onto the heating element, and as that warms up, it'll start to generate smoke, and that chamber will fill up. And this thing has a timer on it so that the puck doesn't burn to a complete char and make a nasty smoke, but it does generate a lot of good smoke. And then it just slides the used puck off, and they're timed. I think every 20 minutes a puck moves, and it puts a new puck on. So here I'm gonna say 4 hours later, I got a piece of jowl. We did jowl bacon as well, and I'm pulling that out. It's skin on. I'm just again using some parchment paper and some trays, and we are lucky enough to have a CoolBot walk-in cooler, so that's where I'm storing all of this in bulk to just get it back cold before I slice. Now, an important thing is to get the bacon cold before you're going to slice it, and it just makes it a lot easier to deal with. You don't have to have a walk-in cooler like this. You can actually just put some slabs in your freezer even for just a brief amount of time. If they're even partially frozen, it makes it a lot easier to work with once you start using a slicer. And again, you don't have to have a slicer. You can just slice by hand with a knife, but I've found that to get thin slices of bacon, slicer is the way to go, and also a lot more time efficient. So let's see, I'm sharpening up my knife here because, like I said, we left our skin on. Not required, but before you were going to slice these slabs, you want to take that skin off. Otherwise, you would end up with a piece of the skin on each slice of bacon. So it's a lot easier to remove the skin from the belly once it is cured up, because it's cured up and cold. It just firms up the meat. A lot of the moisture has been drawn out, so it just makes it easier to get the skin off of that belly portion of the hog. When the hog is fresh and you have that fresh pork belly, because of the nature of where that meat is, it's kind of loose and hard to deal with. So it's a little bit of a harder part of the hog to skin. And you'll see I'm not struggling too much with it here, but a nice sharp knife is important, and you get a hang for it. Once this is like one of the first ones I'm doing, but you start to move through this stuff pretty quick. It's almost like filleting a fish, or if you've ever like skinned a fish, um, you can really work through it pretty good with a sharp knife. Now this skin, everything is food. That's another reason we don't skin our hogs to begin with. We scald and scrape, and we actually make pork rinds from the skin. So that's another, this skin I'm taking off doesn't have to go in the compost or the trash, or to the animals. If we want, we can also start the process of turning that into pork rinds. When we're processing a hog, we save a lot of that skin and do that in the beginning, but also as you work through some of your cuts, when you end up with extra skin, you can put it in a bag and freeze it. And maybe on a day where you don't have so much going on, you can get down to prepping that for some pork rinds, which is a whole nother video topic. Also, I want to say that this process of curing bacon doesn't need to be done right away with a fresh hog, a fresh kill. If you are processing your hogs in the middle of harvest and you have a lot going on, you can take your pork belly and just wrap it and put it in the freezer fresh. And then on some cold winter days when you're bored and need a project, you can start to pull that stuff out and start that process right then. And you can mix your cure, let it go in the cure for 7 days, and then smoke it if you want to smoke it or not smoke it, slice it. None of this has to be done right away. You can always take some of these cuts and just put them into the freezer and get to them when you can. So this slicer is it does the job. It's not our favorite. It was a Amazon purchase. There's definitely smaller home slicers, and I think there's larger home slicers. Most of what I have found with any of these slicers is they are not big enough to slice the whole bacon slab long ways. If so, you're going to want to get into a commercial slicer, which would be great, but you're going to spend a lot more money. The trick with these smaller home slicers is to take that slab, which is very malleable, and fold it in half, and then you kind of get like a bacon roll on the slicer, and you're able to slice that way. So here I am just pulling some slices off, and I will say that this year I felt like I cut it a little too thin. It felt right while I was doing it, so I never adjusted the blade, and I just cooked, sliced through all the bacon we had at about the same thickness. In retrospect, after we've made some of it, I wish I would have had some. I'd done some more thick cuts and some thin, but some more variation. That's just like similar to don't cure all your slabs the same way. If you don't know what you like, don't slice it all the same thickness, because once you do it, you're married to it. The way we do this is we just slice, what we think we'll use in 3 or 4 days between the two of us. I also then put that in a vacuum seal and seal it up and put it in the freezer. This part can be tedious, but there's just nothing more rewarding than walking to the garage to the deep freeze and pulling out bacon. It's like shopping at home. It's just one of the things that we love so much about this lifestyle. Well, I hope you guys learned something new about making bacon today. There's so much you can do for preference, and you'll figure out your own way. Good luck and enjoy making your own food at home. See you on the next one. Bye.